Thelma D. Jones. I've lived in Southwest for more than 48 years. My parents decided that after graduating from a junior college of business in Durham, that I should go farther afield as opposed to returning to the tobacco fields of North Carolina. I loved it, and I thought this is going to be home. I was invited to be a part of the Southwest Neighborhood Assembly, and I liked its mission, which was to improve the quality of life for its residents, regardless of who they were, race, economics, gender, and all of that. I always feel like that I'm walking a line of the haves and the have-nots. I have a role to continue to work so that both sides of the community can continue to come together. Our nation's capital has one of the largest mortality rates of breast cancer. I felt like I couldn't go through this disease without parting my knowledge and experience to help others. So I created the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund. This is where I gave to a community that gave to me. I still love Southwest, and Southwest still loves me.
Yes, absolutely. Then we have the other content for voices. Do you want me to use this one or the other?
Okay. As a matter of fact, if we can, so we can get started, we will pull those up later on so everybody can see my lovely face. And that picture there was taken by Sylvia Powers. Okay. That was a picture on the voices of Black women. But we will now turn it over to our illustrious MC and facilitator, Yao E. Odamtten. And by way of introducing him, because he's going to tell us about himself. But Yao and I, like many of you on this call, especially our guest speakers, go way back. We had a wonderful relationship, a friendly relationship, and working relationship, that is. I don't want anyone's mind going to the gutter. And
No, I can't with you.
And so Yao and I worked together at the World Bank Group for many, many years, and we developed a relationship that spanned out years at the World Bank and beyond. He's even visited with me at my family reunion in North Carolina, and basically every aspect of my life, from the World Bank through my cancer journey. I remember Yao spent the night with me at the hospital when I encountered my breast cancer surgery, and he held my hand throughout that period, and he is still holding my hand. He is the epitome of a true friend. And so I am very happy to welcome him back for the third or the fourth time as our MC. As a matter of fact, the first time he was finishing his MSW at Howard University. Then the next time he had advanced to another stage of graduation, and now he is a LGSW. So the sky is the limit for Yao. And the good thing of knowing that is that we'll be holding each other's hands along the way as he progresses and as I progress as well. And so, Yao, I will leave it to you to tell us more in depth about the illustrious career and the work that you're doing as a social worker at Howard University. So please join me in welcoming our MC and facilitator for the evening, Yao Odamtten.
Thank you so much, Thelma. Thank you so much. It's so appreciative to be here and such an honor and truly a pleasure to be not just part of this community, but to help MC and also facilitate tonight's program. I don't often talk about myself, so it feels a little bit awkward doing so, but my background spans decades in the Washington, D.C. area now. I came to D.C. back in 1999 to attend graduate schools, Johns Hopkins. And from there, my first internship happened to be at the World Bank that turned into a decade-long career between the World Bank and the IMF. Crunching numbers, balance of payments, finance was my background, but also very much involved in speech writing and developing the then president's program around development ethics and the role of faith and religion in the development process. Since then, I've continued in a space that's very familiar to me, which is dance. I've been dancing since I came out of my mother's womb, in essence. I've worked for the Washington Ballet, Maryland Youth Ballet, and other dance organizations in the area. I currently am still teaching. That's what I do in the evenings. I love my students from 3 years old up to 93 years old, and a big focus on the psychosocial elements and dimensions of dance and movement in our overall care. That said, I also have a background in communications and marketing from the World Bank. I went to corporate America, working for some global brands that we're all very familiar with. I won't bore you to tears on that, but it's an honor and pleasure to see how my career has shifted over time for reasons unknown to me per se, but God has his reasons for everything. And it's great being in this space now, social work, where I've gone from the macro level dealing with heads of states and governments to the micro level, truly on grassroots, understanding people, why we are the way we are, why we were the way we were, and where are we going in this world. So I hope that with tonight's conversations around men's mental health, around anti-cancer effectiveness, we can continue to engage in these conversations that we often don't have, particularly as men, cisgendered men in this space. Conversations that we should be having more of, but for cultural reasons, we choose not to. So, Thelma, thank you so much for bringing us together and for taking us on this journey. So again, this month, as we know, is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and nothing could be better than getting this group of us teamed and distinguished speakers together. Just a few housekeeping rules, not even rules, but just the items just to note that this meeting is being recorded, so you don't have to record this on your own, all right? And this will be on the website and also on YouTube, so you can always access it at any time to go back and listen to points of interest and share it with other people too. And please, during this session, we'll just ask that if you're not speaking, to just mute your microphone for the interim time. Feel free to use the chat button at the very bottom to put any questions you might have. I'll be looking at it here and there and making sure that we're getting the questions in. But we will have a question and answer session getting towards the end of our first segment where you can ask all the speakers any questions that you might have. So do note that you won't be forgotten. Your questions are important and we can't wait to engage with them. Get a drink. I've got my grapefruit juice here. Get some tea, whatever you need for yourself. If you're behind the screen, get some munchies and let's get started. So I want to first just begin by again welcoming our fearless leader, founder, and thriving advocate and tireless voice, Thelma Jones. So, Thelma, can I throw it back to you just for a hot second?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for throwing it back to me. And
Absolutely.
welcome everyone to the monthly support group meeting of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund, which has been going on since April 2010. Our support group is modeled after the World Bank support group, which I was, breast cancer support group, which I was a part of when I started my journey. After spending more than 33 years at the World Bank, it's kind of hard to leave that institution totally behind. But the mission of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund is to advocate and help to improve the overall health and well-being of women, men, and young girls. And we do this in a committed way through outreach, education, and support to help to reduce the incidence and mortality rates of breast cancer. Some of you may know that the District of Columbia has one of the largest both incidence and mortality rates of breast cancer, particularly mortality rate in the country. With our new administration coming in, I have already been talking to our hopefully newly elected officials in terms of how I would like to work closely with them to help improve these outcomes. Because as a central city, central government, while we may not have the best rates, we certainly shouldn't be at the bottom of the totem pole. And many of the breast cancer survivors look like me. They're women, Black and brown. And we need to change that. And that's one of the reasons why I'm also happy to be an ambassador for the American Cancer Society, Voices of Black Women. That is a study which is really looking at why we are developing and dying of so many diseases. And it is a study where we're recruiting 100,000 women from the ages of 20 to 60. So if you know anyone in that age range, please tell them. And even if they're not in that age range or category, please tell them as well, because they certainly know someone. And so the age range again is 20 to 60, and they cannot have had any form of cancer other than a basal skin cell, skin type cancer. So please either visit Voices of Black Women on the website, or even easier, you can contact me, and I'd love to get you signed up to be a part of that study. In addition to our advocacy around health equity, the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund, as I said, has a monthly support group meeting where we have reached more than 22 US states and 7 countries, to name some: Spain, Guatemala, the US Virgin Islands, Mexico, Barbados, and we recently reached Australia. One of our board members was speaking from there. So as you can see, our reach is global. And thank you. We also do a lot of work around patient navigation, helping to connect survivors to the Medicare system and to just help them to understand how the system works, because there are all types of barriers. And being a patient navigator and a community health worker, that is something that I take pride in doing. And where we live here in Southwest DC in Ward 6, we have the largest concentration of public housing in the city. So my work is near and dear to me, with people that I have lived a part of since my coming to Washington, D.C., or in Southwest in 1976. It is a daily part of my work. We also have a small but active financial toxicity program where we help to reduce the financial toxicity that survivors are undergoing from paying for their rent, medical bills, medical prescriptions, whether they have a lapse in their insurance and cannot take a scan or an exam. The Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund is always trying to be there with the limited funds that we have. We also have a number of partnerships, some of whom are here on the line, such as NCBC. And we worked and pooled our resources to help to make a greater impact. I will encourage you to visit our website, the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund website at https://tdjbreastcancerfund.org. And if you are so inspired, which I hope you are, consider making a donation so that we can help to make a greater impact here, not only in the District of Columbia, but as I was saying earlier, the work of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund has spanned a number of states now. So, yeah, thank you. And thank you to all of our distinguished guests and friends. Many of you go way, way back, probably maybe farther than we care to think about, but I am happy to see you again and some for the first time. So we'll hear more about our wonderful speakers, the ones who are in their beautiful golden age. That does not include me. And as well as welcoming people like Haley Blassingang that we'll hear from later on. So back to you, Yao. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Thelma. I'll put my clinical social worker hat back on and start facilitating more now. Here we go. Just before we begin, I just want us to just take a moment to just breathe. I'm going to take a 4-count inhale. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. And exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, inhale. Exhale. And one more, inhale. And gentle exhale. Let us take a moment to just center ourselves with this blessing. If you feel comfortable, gently close your eyes, soften your gaze if you need to. Take a deep breath in and take a deep breath out. Breathing together is so important. We connect via energy. Gracious and loving God, we thank you for this space, for this gathering, and for each person present today, this evening. We'll lift up the focus of today's program, men's mental health, and we honor the courage it takes to be present, to reflect, and to seek wellness in body, mind, and spirit. We ask your peace for those carrying unseen burdens. We ask for your comfort for those in need of healing. And we ask for guidance for those searching for clarity and strength, that this evening maybe just one token bit of information might help in that process and in that journey. We give special thanks to our speakers and our guests today for all that they will share, for their knowledge, for their stories, for their time. Bless them for their willingness to pour into others when I believe they also need pouring into themselves. And we also lift up our secondary speakers and the contributors whose videos and voices and perspectives strengthen this community and this conversation from strength to strength. Remind us that we are not alone, that support is here, and that healing is absolutely possible. Again, in body, mind, and spirit. And as we move forward together, may we do so with compassion, with openness, with respect, even with silence. We thank you and we trust you for this. We ask that you guide us. And now let us gently return our attention to the program. Amen. I just want to take another moment to just mention that earlier we had two speakers who, due to conflicts of schedules, were unable to make it this evening. They're returning speakers, but regardless, we appreciate the contribution to the Thelma Doris Jones Breast Cancer Fund and look forward to having them back in the future. That said, it is now my privilege to introduce our distinguished guest speakers for this evening. First on our list is Dr. Kermit A. Crawford. Dr. Crawford is a clinical associate professor emeritus and a licensed psychologist who earned his doctoral degree from Boston College. He's a distinguished in forensic psychologist and researcher, and he previously served as director of the Center for Multicultural Mental Health at Boston University School of Medicine and Boston Medical Center. He also served as the executive director for the Massachusetts Marathon Bombing Victim Survivor Resiliency Center and has led groundbreaking work in multicultural behavioral health disaster response, trauma, and culturally informed care across the nation. Dr. Crawford has contributed to national advocacy and advisory efforts through the American Psychological Association and Institute of Medicine, and he's also part of the Disaster Behavioral Health Response Cadre with SAMHSA. His distinguished career includes multiple awards recognizing excellence in diversity, cultural competency, and lifetime achievement. You would never know because he's a spring chicken. So please help me in welcoming Dr. Kermit Crawford.
Thank you.
You're most welcome, Dr. Crawford. Welcome.
Thank you, Yao. I was thinking back to Thelma and me, because I knew her, for those of you that don't know, over 50 years ago in high school. And I was only about 2 or 3 at the time, and I was a prodigy. But she's as beautiful now as she was then. But the other thing related is that, she was talking about Miss Blassingame's book. And I was thinking that, you read it out on the beach and it's kind of hot, she was saying. If any of you want to know about the hot Thelma Jones, if you slip a little something in the mail, a little something, something, we can talk. But moving on, because Thelma told me what she'd like for me to talk about. And then I thought about it for a minute and said, I don't think I really want to talk about that, because it occurred to me a couple of things. One was that, you know how when you go to church and they have all the information on the bulletin, and at the bottom it says that the service will be under the direction of the Holy Spirit and is subject to change without any notice. So I evoked that with Miss Jones. And the other thing is that even if she got upset, she got to come down to North Carolina. And by then, I'm going to be long gone. So what I'd like to talk about tonight is going to be a psychologist's view, approach to chronic illness. And that can also include some aspects of acute illness, but primarily chronic, and talk about being a Black man in that. And you'll understand as I get further in, more related to what I'm saying. Having a chronic illness, I don't need to tell all of you, is a life-changing event. And it precipitates psychological, physical, and social challenges in a lot of ways. Fear, anxiety, depression, anger, all a part of it. And the grief of having a loss, whether it is a temporary loss or permanent loss, all of that is in the mix all the time.
It's okay, period.
Shock.
I'll order another pair, period.
Reevaluation of one's future, stigma, and also the negative effect and impact on relationships. And I'll talk in more detail about that. But primarily depression, and we all sort of know what depression is. It's a mood disorder, unlike an emotion,
I guess I can go
which is much more surface.
to where I
But
was and look under the table, period. But I can do that later.
Miss Sherry, I think you probably got to go on mute. But depression is about sadness. It's about hopelessness. It's about isolation. It's about so many things that can lead to other things, including other types of illness on the top of the illness that you may already have as a chronic illness. And anxiety is hypervigilance, always being on alert. Stress, I'll just say stress is anxiety. But I'm not only talking about this, talking to you all. I'm not only, as the commercial says, I'm not only the president, but I'm a client too, because I have a disorder, a disease called myositis. It's a disease that maybe many of you have never heard of. I've gone to doctors, and it took them a long time to diagnose it, that they had never even heard of inclusive body myositis. And after going through all of that, what it means is that uh, ultimately I'm going to lose my ability to walk. I'm going to lose the ability to grip. But unless I fall and crack my head open, I should have a normal life because I'm still active. I can still get around fine with my rollator and do all the things that I had done before. But it is, and I don't delude myself into thinking it's not a chronic illness. Everything changed when I found out what I had. And in the beginning, it was denial. I ain't got nothing like that. I'm a player, a basketball player. I want to dunk a ball again. I want to get out with the brothers and have fun. But everything changed, and I couldn't deny it. My vision of the future. Now, granted, I never played pro ball, but I still held out hope that I won't make a starting lineup, but maybe I'll make somebody's bench. But my vision changed. The roles that I play in life change. The day-to-day uncertainty. Some days are good days. I'm able to jump up and get going. Other days, it's going to take some time. That uncertainty when you have a chronic illness is a real challenge on top of a challenge. All the stereotypes I had about disabled people, and even getting to the place to say, I am disabled now. And then sort of backing off, the rumination. Well, I'm not completely disabled. But the reality is that I am, and I have to come face to face with that because it is about acceptance. It's not about liking it or anything or about preferring it or anything, but it is about acceptance. I had to really think about aging, getting older. Okay, what is because I'm aging versus what is because of the IBM, inclusive body myositis? Strength, I don't have that. Weakness, I do have that. And what about my manhood as I always define my being man, strong, provider, intimidator, all those kinds of things. If I needed to do that, I can no longer do that. It made me think about mortality and death, which I don't like to think about, but that is a reality of our lives. We're all terminal. And certain things brings it more into focus than other things do. And for me, myositis did. Even though there's an aspect of denial that goes along with me not even thinking about that and doing something about it. Fear of losing valued relationships. My friends, I can't nurture the relationships like I did before. Are they still going to be there? And all these questions have to be answered as you go along because what I found is that my real friends never went anywhere. But those that I only had to nurture the relationship and what they were getting out of it, they kind of fell off on the side because I can't do the things that I used to do. I can't be there. I can't be as involved with them. But it is a learning process as you go. And I think that the biggest thing that I had to come to grips with, besides recognizing the disability aspect, is that my identity changed. I was always known as Kermit Crawford, the basketball player first, then as Dr. Crawford, could get around and do anything anyplace else. And now I am retired, and it's like nobody's really calling, not like they used to. Nobody really knows my name. And I don't want to sound like, Debbie Down. I don't want to sound like it's all is lost because that's not the case. It's just that I had to think of myself in a different way to be able to get off of what I was sort of falling down on and move on with those things that I am still able to do in a realistic and accepting way. You think about moments in life, moments. And I think about it like there's good moments on one end of the continuum, and there are bad moments on the other end of the continuum. But most of our lives are lived somewhere in between, and most of the time it's all right. I say as we get older, it ain't never nothing, but that's not true either. There are times of things are just all right. But if you're a black man, things aren't just all right in that interceding period because you've got to deal with racism as a compounding factor for your chronic illness. I thought about it, and even back in Snow Hill, where I grew up, a part of the time, and that's when I knew Thelma, Snow Hill, North Carolina. And I remember every time I go to the doctor, my mom would make me change underwear because she said I had to have clean underwear on. Okay, if that's what she said. And then it got to the point where I had to wear them every day because she said if I was taken to the emergency room, I had to have clean underwear on. But that was her way of saying that I had to create a certain perception in the physicians and others because I'm a black man. So I have to go a little bit beyond that to say that I'm okay, I'm acceptable. I'm not like the others, as sad as that might sound, but that is a reality of our times as I was growing up. As a black man, chronic illnesses, they violate my masculinity. They make me lose autonomy. And it made me have to redefine manhood. And I mentioned that earlier, but it's the need for other people taking care of me, a strong black man. That my wife is my primary caretaker, and she doesn't have to do a whole lot more than she did before. Thank her, thank God for her, and that she's here. But at the same time, I have to have certain things taken care of that I can't do anymore. That's a trip sometimes. The psychological and the stressors and trauma, all of these things are there. A condition called, and this is kind of in the folk literature, John Henryism, where black men can exhibit high effort, extra effort to cope and manage stressors, but yet that reality of always having to be John Henry, whoever John Henry is, the characterization is exhausting on top of the chronic illness that we might have. Constantly managing the disease in a marginalized society. I still walk somewhere and I know I'm not Dr. Crawford. I'm another black man. And they hear me speak and I still speak with some authority and confuses many people. And I'm not just talking about white physicians and white healthcare people, maybe some others too. But the reality is that I always have to acknowledge that I'm in that marginalized point. So are you going to take as much time with me? Are you going to talk with me? Are you going to tell me everything that I need to know? Are you going to trust that I'm going to do my own work on this? Are you going to deal with me straight around prognosis? All those things are what we have to deal with walking in the door. We're not responsible, but we are uh, responsible for making the difference, unfortunately. We are not to blame, I should say, but we are responsible to make the difference. And also dealing with the trauma of our lived experiences, whether we have chronic illness or not. Coping and mental health. And y'all, how am I doing with time? I want to make sure I keep up with it.
You're doing just fine.
Okay, thank you. Coping and mental health. Suffering in silence, suppressing emotions. So we'll sit in the corner and won't say anything sometimes. And we're not doing okay. Sometimes we're not doing great, but a lot of times we're not doing okay. That people will look at us and say, "How you doing?" "I'm all right." When we know deep down inside we're not all right. But it's because of where we came from and who we are and those things about us being strong men that we have to just be quiet about it and live in our own misery. Active coping and well-being. And oftentimes these things are without self-care and without taking care of ourselves. as y'all did in the beginning, just having a time to relax, a time to sort of center ourselves. We don't often do that as black men because it was always automatic for us. Yeah, we took it for granted. But then there are times in our lives that we're not going to be able to, especially with a chronic illness. Family support. Now, you got Uncle Junebug over there, or Bubba, that never was that good a support for you anyway, so you ain't gonna be able to count on them. But other members, have the conversation with them and help try to understand where they're coming from. You want to share, but you also have to decide how much to share. And part of that is showing that you're not going to be a burden on them, but saying that sometimes, sister, I might need you in ways that I haven't needed you before. I know we didn't get along when we were young, but now things are changing, and you might need me one day, and I'm going to be there. All of that's going to be important. And let's not forget religion and spirituality, which again, I was glad that Yao and Thelma brought in. 69% of black men say that they are religious, and religion is necessary in their lives. It's important to stay centered, I think, on God and on God's blessing, because it wasn't always this way. That's how we could, take things for granted. Uh, but now we have to depend on things in a different way and people and the Lord if you believe in a different way. And if you don't believe, I hope you have something bigger than you, bigger than us that you're able to believe in. There's stigma that we have to deal with, and there's a lack of cultural sensitivity. I walk in the office and I'm pissed about something that Trump did the day before. And somehow that has an impact on me, and it's not even considered that maybe the general weight of structural institutional racism has on me is affecting my condition in the office that this person is diagnosing or attempting to diagnose or treat. The thing about myositis, as I mentioned earlier, is that there is no treatment and no cure. But I think it's still important for me to keep connected to the Lord. It's important for me to remember that miracles still do happen. And I wanted to put that out there. Let's not, in all the doom saying that it might sound like, miracles do happen for you and for me. In the hospital, trauma associated with current events outside can be a real, real challenge. The need to code switch, that I have to sound like I'm Dr. Crawford, even if I'm not perceived that way. That my appearance has to be good. I still wear clean underwear to the doctor's office. And not that I don't wear clean underwear anyway, but I make the effort to change because I remember my mama. And my behavior has to be in a certain way because I have to battle pervasive racial stereotypes. There's a lot more to this that I'm not going to have time to talk about, but I do want to talk about just a few self-help things, and this will be brief. First of all, black man, communicate. What you have is there, and you want all the information to be known despite the challenges so that you can get it back to work with the people, your health providers, to do the best job they can for you and for others. So find ways to be able to communicate. Um, and also remember what I mentioned earlier about boundaries. There might be some things you don't want to talk about. But even with my disorder, my disease, it's hard for me to call it disease. I mostly call it disorder, but it is a disease affecting 25,000 people in the nation, 25,000 people. So there ain't gonna be no cure anytime soon. It's considered an orphan disease. And some cancers are considered orphan diseases, by the way. There are about 7,000 orphan diseases and 50 every month that are identified. An orphan disease is a disease that's not taken too much focus by the pharmaceutical companies, by other industries, or by the government. So myositis is going to have to be a miracle, and I accept that. But even with that, I still do many of the things of life that I did before, even though some things are going to be limitations. Look for as much information as you can get. Talk to people not only in the medical profession, but outside. There is so much information online. Despite what Trump and his sycophants decided to try to do to eliminate a lot of that. You can find it and you can talk to people who are able to give you feedback in ways that you may not have known about. Self-care. Be cognizant of your own self-care. You got to take time to be a fool sometimes. You got to have fun. As we get older, we say that, and especially as we get further and further into chronic illnesses, we say that fun and chronic illness, um, or grief or loss or any of those things, they are reciprocally inhibiting. And what I mean by that is they can't occur in the same place. So if you find ways to have fun, then that's going to take some of the stress away. And that's going to be important. When we did the work with the 9/11 families that flew out of Boston and their loved ones flew into the World Trade Centers, we had children in there, and we had all the children playing ball, throwing things up in there, bubbles, everything. Because again, we knew that fun and stress are reciprocally inhibiting. Finally, I want to say, and I mentioned this before, uh, believe in miracles. Don't let a day go by that you don't think you can wake up healed. And pass that on to other people because that's really important. And it's also important for you to believe in yourself. Yeah, things might be tough, but you got this far. And you got this far not by accident. You got this far because of you, your blessings, other people around the support, your smarts. Those things are all there. So utilize those things to be the person that you are and the person acknowledging, yeah, I got something going on, but I'm going to be the best version of me that I can as I go forward. So I'm happy to answer any questions when the time comes, and I wish you all the best.
Dr. Crawford, thank you so much. I I I I have a lot to say, but I'm gonna hold. And with that hold, I'd like everyone to just take a moment to just breathe on what you heard. Do any questions come to mind for you? Any points of similarity? Any concerns about age, about stage in life that Dr. Crawford just shared with us? Please write that down for our Q&A session, or feel free to just populate it in the chat feature, and we'll get to it shortly. There was a lot that you shared, and we're so grateful for that wealth of information. And the mere fact that you just went off script and said, I'm going to do my own damn thing. Yes, thank you. With confidence. Our next speaker, Dr. Thom Elmore. With over 30 years of experience, Dr. Elmore is a distinguished leader in the addiction recovery and nonprofit management zone. Recovery, addiction recovery. I can't tell you how much work I'm doing around that these days. He is most certainly, has recently served as Chief Executive Officer of the Addiction Recovery Care Association in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where he held major efforts and made major efforts, including building a 99-bed treatment facility that opened in 2024. 99-bed. Wow. He previously served for over 17 years as the Executive Director for the Fellowship Home of Winston-Salem, again in North Carolina, and continues to support recovery services as a board member and advisor. Dr. Elmore is also a U.S. Navy veteran. Thank you for your service. Holds a PhD in leadership studies and is a certified alcohol and drug counselor. Please join us in welcoming Dr. Thom Elmore. And use your mind to transport yourselves to where he is right now. Just look at that background. You see that blue? You see them waves? You see that sound?
Yes.
Feel it on your feet. The power of the imagination.
I want to thank the creator for the opportunity to present and be a part of anything good. And tonight is a special night. Coming behind Dr. Crawford is not something that I would have signed up for if I had known I was going to roll out. I have such a tremendous amount of respect for him as a person and as an example of, what a survivor looks like. And that is something that I think that is important to all of us, that we have an example of what it is that we aspire to. And you may find that in different ways, but there needs to be something that we always keep our eye on in terms of what comes next. My perspective comes from three places: science, recovery, and a person also living with multiple chronic health conditions. I am a person in long-term recovery, meaning that I have abstained from the use of any mood or mind-altering substances for over 3 decades. That means that as I describe my condition, which is a chronic condition, I will always have a condition that makes it not a good idea for me to partake in anything that may change the way I see reality. And so while some people can do different things, it has been a journey for me to determine what is necessary in order for me to have the quality of life that I believe that the Creator intended for me to have. That means that I have to, while I believe that God does move mountains, I still need to bring a shovel. I am going to be required to do some things to participate in my own well-being. So when I look at the relevance that I might bring to such a wonderful gathering as we are having tonight, I think about the individuals that I have had the opportunity to work with in working with substance use and other chronic illnesses. Many individuals that I work with have either come in with health conditions. Sometimes it included cancer. Sometimes it was HIV. Sometimes it was kidney disease. A lot of times it was liver disease. A lot of these conditions that come as a direct result of using substances, pancreatitis, heart issues, high blood pressure, and then just a disparity in lifestyles for we used to call it zip code-itis, where marginalized groups or folks that fell at different socioeconomic places on the ladder would end up getting one type of care that Dr. Crawford was referring to. And then there would be another, on the other side of the tracks, there'd be a totally different approach to the same condition, depending on what zip code you were in, might have a lot to do with what type of medical care that you receive. So substance use plays a key role when we talk about the concept of survivors, because we all are survivors of whatever it is that life has presented us with. The fact that we are present in the here and the moment says that we have survived thus far. And then we talk about the things that we want to do to ensure that we continue to overcome whatever the challenges may be. Now, when diagnosed with a chronic illness, such as when I was, came to the conclusion that I suffered from addiction, or when I discovered that I had kidney disease, or when I discovered that I had liver disease, there was the stress, there was the anxiety, and even the depression. There was there was the isolation and the stigma, because, as a Black male, my thinking was I was brought up that if you got into trouble, you had to figure your way out of trouble. And if you had to go and ask somebody for help, that was a sign, in the way that I was brought up, that would be a sign of weakness. So a lot of times we are trained, we are conditioned to internalize all of the turmoil and the trauma, and the trauma doesn't necessarily have to be restricted to just our life experiences. We inherit generational trauma from our parents and our grandparents. I remember at 5 and 6 years old being told what used to happen to people when they did certain things. You don't go over here because this will happen. And this, you see that tree right there? That's where they used to hang people from. And so I never saw those events, but the trauma is in my DNA. And I too remember my mother telling me, make sure you had clean underwear. She said, if you get hit by a car, I want to make sure you had clean underwear on. And I never could put it together. But her thing was, you got to always be prepared in this life because it's not going to be, life isn't always fair. And especially won't be fair for you. And I again once heard my mother mention in an event, they were honoring her and they were giving her some big award. And she said, I think my greatest achievement is that I have managed to raise 2 sons in Southeast Washington, D.C., and they both still alive and they're not in prison. And she thought that that was the greatest accomplishment that she could make coming out of Snow Hill, North Carolina, and coming to Washington, D.C., that she could manage to raise 2 boys by herself. The substance use piece is vital because many individuals will deal with the ramifications once they find out that they have a condition. We live in a society that is quick to prescribe and treat you with something. And oftentimes the medications that were designed and intended to help us, if not managed properly, could become another problem or another situation that we would have to deal with. Early recognition and intervention helps us identify when we have an issue with medications. And there's a thin line between, some people think because the doctor prescribes something to me, that means it's a medicine, and they don't look at it as a drug. Like, I'm not copying drugs on the street. I am, in fact, getting my drugs from a doctor, so it's medicine. But there's a thin line between when a medicine becomes a drug, and then, as in the parlance of the street, they say that it's dope. And so there has to be a continuing education and a continuing open-mindedness in order for that to stay on the forefront. The connection between living and surviving illness and the recovery process is very similar. In the recovery process, we base our existence on resilience. No matter what happens, we're not going to give up. We adapt. We make the changes to, some of the things that we used to do, we can't do, but it doesn't mean that we don't do anything. We have to make the adaptation for what life is presenting to us now. We learn to deal with uncertainty. We have to manage the uncertainty because one of the biggest things that I remember was always wanting to know for certain that everything was going to be all right. In my recovery journey, I have had to work on what was defined as my need for certainty. I needed to have the answer before I could really be comfortable or to commit to something. I needed to know what the outcome would be. And if things didn't go the way that I thought that they should go, then I opened the door for a whole array of other feelings: frustration, resentments, anger, misplaced control issues. And it just got really crazy after that. So it was important for me in the recovery process to build support systems, such as a system that we have here tonight. There is something very dangerous about the notion that all of the situations that I would encounter in life, that I would come up with a solution and be able to solve them myself. There is something very dangerous about the inability to ask for help. There's something even more dangerous about trying to tell help how to help me. Sometimes I'm in dire need of some support, but I don't know how to ask for the support. I'm really good at giving, but I'm not so good at receiving. I still have, as Dr. Crawford alluded to, the thing about what a man is supposed to do. And I still think that in my house, in my family, in my neighborhood, I need to maintain a certain image of what a man looks like, sounds like, talks like, acts like, and that sort of thing. And I've always tried to say it was to be a decent image. But what happens when change comes and I have to make those adjustments to life in a different capacity? So I offer some practical recommendations for myself and for others dealing with any chronic health condition. To be honest with your healthcare providers about what's going on, as Dr. Crawford talked about mentally, but also let's talk about what's going on with the consumption of alcohol and use of other medications. We need to be upfront about that, including the pain medications and the sleep aids. We also need to seek support for depression, anxiety, and stress. There's no shame in that game. If those are issues and things that you're dealing with, there is help available for you for that. We say in the recovery community, which of a God's favors would you deny? If the Creator has created something for your benefit and has blessed you with it, and you do not take advantage of it, it's almost like you're saying, thank you, but no thank you. I'll go it alone. I don't need the help. And so we want to be always mindful of that. It is always important for us in the recovering community to build social connections, especially among Black men. When I first started participating in the recovery circles and they started saying, I love you, Thom, I said, uh-oh, something's wrong with this place. I got to get out of here. We got guys talking about they love you. It must be, something's, and it's the idea, just the idea. I knew that my dad loved me, my brother loved me, my uncles loved me. But even with my friends, you didn't go around telling, a Black man didn't go around telling other folks that I love you and give me a hug. And that became a new culture for me. And today I still draw from that support because I still draw from the fact that sometimes somebody else could be my eyes and ears. They could see some things happening with me that I might not see in myself. And every once in a while, somebody has to tell me the truth. If I'm surrounded by people that won't tell me the truth, then I got to find a new group of people to be surrounded by. Because I don't need anybody to co-sign. If I'm engaged in self-destructive behavior, or even if I'm unraveling or coming apart, I need somebody to say, Thom, what you're doing is concerning to me. You're scaring me, you're worrying me, I'm seeing you out of character, you're not doing your right. And the only way that that's going to happen is if I surround myself with people that care. I also need to look at my mindfulness, what my state of mind is, and how I manage my emotions, and am I learning new ways to express myself? I remember at one time being in the treatment facility, the veterans program, and they would grab us all around in a circle and they would ask you how you were doing. It was against the VA law to use the terms, oh, I'm okay and I'm all right. Those two were out. You had to find an adjective to describe how you felt that day. I am angry. I am afraid. I am hungry. I am whatever. But you could not just say that I'm okay and I'm all right, because these were terms that we usually would use to mask how we actually honestly felt. And one of the most important pieces of staying connected and being of supporting one another is being involved in purposeful engagement, where you come together with a unified purpose. I love how Yao had us to breathe. And he said, when we breathe in, and then we breathe out. And we breathe in, and then we breathe out. And we were all connected. And that motion We were all connected. If we didn't have anything else in common, we were breathing in and we were breathing out, and it was a collective effort, and it was different. I don't know about you, but I felt it. When I breathed out and y'all were breathing out at the same time, it felt like we had that in common. And in closing, I want to talk about the importance of hope in whatever condition that we are dealing with. Hope is necessary to ensure that despair has no place to grow. If we take hope out of the picture, despair moves in and sets up and grows in that place. By maintaining hope, providing hope not only for yourself but for others, it avoids despair from having a place to exist. And we could be the answer to each other's prayers. The power that greater than us could be using us to answer somebody else's prayer. On the days that when my self-esteem and my questions about self-adequacy and all of that come into question, as all people in recovery sometimes do, it is the act of doing something for somebody else, right, that saves me from myself. Because left to my own devices, I could be caught up in a tornado of woe is me, woe is me, things not going the way I think they should go, life's not fair, and I get caught up in that, and I forget all about the reality that no matter how much stuff I'm going through, there's somebody somewhere who would love to have my life. Even with the things that I am going through, there's somebody who would like to just have the choices that I have. And sometimes I lose sight of that because I come from a self-centered place. And as I move in the journey from being not so self-centered to trying to be more God-centered, I'm learning to appreciate the creator more than I appreciate the creations. And that has been a journey that has been only made possible through the support of others. I'm not saying that I didn't get the information, but it seems like depending on where I am in this journey called life, the same lesson that meant one thing 20 years ago might mean something very, very different today. And so I offer that to this meeting is that there's always hope. God is in the miracle business, and I'm the living proof of that. My story is it's very different. To be Dr. Thom Elmore is very different than who I was 35 years ago. And I believe that if fate would have it, through God's grace and mercy, that I could be given a new way of life with a goal and a purpose for living, I believe that that is available to each and every one of us. Be very careful about who we surround ourselves with. Be very careful. I look at the 5 people that I spend the bulk of my day with, and I try to make sure that they were people who will feed my spirit. Now, I have some other people that seem to draw from my spirit, and I try to make sure that I measure how much time I spend around them, because I need folks to pour into me in order for me to continue to do what it is that I believe that the God of my understanding would have me to do. It's a good day to be a part of something positive. It's a good day to have a choice. It's a good day to be able to give unconditional love. And when I say that I have unconditional love, it means that I have an unconditional concern for your well-being. And I hope that you find whatever it is it takes for you to be happy, joyous, and free. I'm Thom. I'm glad that you invited me. I'm hoping that I'll get a chance to come back and visit. I'll make sure my contact information is available. If anyone has any questions, I'll hang around. And thank you again for inviting me.
Dr. Elmore, thank you so much. Hope for self and others is necessary so that despair has no place to grow. That was a quote from Dr. Thom Elmore. Something similar from Dr. Kermit Crawford. Miracles still do happen. Believe in miracles. And I want everyone to just take a moment to just not think so much, but what did you hear? What did you feel? What just resonated for you? What were you in conflict with that Dr. Elmore just spent the last 15 minutes talking about? Write that down. Write those questions down. And please feel free to share in our Q&A session in about 10, 15 minutes. There's so much I want to say. Like I'm restricting myself right now because these are bullets of knowledge and of a well-lived experiences. Thank you so much for your vulnerability, for the time you took to share and open your heart, your world, your mind, your lived experiences that have not been easy. But know that you have not been selfish one bit, Dr. Elmore. The mere fact that your work alone for the last 30 years have impacted every single patient and client, human being you've come across. Let's just take the 99-bed facility alone. That's 99 human beings in treatment. Plus, let's not forget their families. The mothers, the fathers, the aunts, the uncles, the children, the cousins that those patients are all connected to. And lest we not forget the care team, including you, that took care of all of them. Now, if that's not community, I don't know what is. You are doing the work. Thank you. You're not 6 feet under. You're not high. You're in chronic recovery. It's wonderful. You're doing the work. We're so grateful for your presence today.
Yeah, I was just thinking, thank you, considering that Kermit has an 8 o'clock departure time. We may want to do the Q&A with the two.
Perfect, that'd be fine.
Because the next video is longer than 15 minutes, so it will
run into time.
Affect our time.
I think that's a brilliant idea. Okay, so on that note, let's quorum right now. Take yourselves off the microphones as is necessary, and please feel free, put your hand up if you like to. We'll come around in circles. We can do this in a popcorn kind of way and answer any questions. Please make any comments, thoughts, feedback. We're all here for community. Ms. Powers, you have the floor. The mic is yours.
I just wanted, my first comment is for Dr. Crawford. I think about the song Chef when they say, Chef is a bad mother, shut your mouth. He is awesome. I had an opportunity to write a couple of articles about him, but as I was researching him to interview him, I was just in awe because he has such a powerful background. So every time I hear him speak, I'm just humbled by his presence and even the things that he shared today and his transparency is just amazing. So that's just a comment, and I have nothing but admiration and respect for him because he's phenomenal. He is phenomenal. But I did want to ask Dr. Elmore to confirm that quote because I had written it down, the quote that you said, and I wanted to make sure I had it correct. I had hope is necessary to make sure despair has no place to grow. And I think when you said it, you said hope for self and others is necessary. So I wanted to make sure the exact quote, because I definitely intend to use that.
I think it depends on the circumstances. Sometimes it's
Okay.
the hope that's in me, and then
Mhm.
sometimes it's the hope that I display or work through with others. So I think there's no set way that you would use the quote. You use
Okay.
it depending on the contingent upon the circumstances, if that makes sense.
Okay, because I want to use it in reference to a project I'm working for breast cancer survivors, and it really I mean, you said a lot of powerful things. You both said some amazing things, but that was so strong that I definitely wrote that down.
So I put it in a context. So in the counseling profession, when folks come to us seeking help, they're usually in a state of despair.
Hmm.
And the one goal that we would have as counselors is the installation of hope, to give
Hmm.
the individual something to hope for. And we
Hmm.
can't necessarily promise them things that we don't know that are going to happen, but we want to leave them with hope. Everybody that I talk to, I want to leave them with hope. And in place of where despair was, I want to leave hope. I want to plant the seeds of hope so
Hmm.
that despair doesn't continue to interfere with their process of getting better.
Hmm. Okay, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate your clarification on that.
And of course, because the meeting is being recorded, if you decide you want to go back and get his exact quote verbatim, feel free to do so with the recording.
One thing that, as y'all think a little bit more, one thing that struck me was just the similarities in both stories. And I've had the opportunity to work in different types of institutions, PWIs, HBCUs, predominantly Black and Brown centered hospitals, predominantly white centered, Caucasian centered hospitals, and every single time it having been born and raised in Ghana, West Africa, it never ceases to fail to show me the disparities in our communications and in our lived experiences. For example, both Dr. Crawford and Dr. Elmore, you both spoke to racism. You both spoke to generational trauma. Generational trauma, not so much in that, oh, this happened to a relative of mine, but make sure your underwear is clean. This happened by this tree. What's this? Lynching, a killing, a murder. Wow. And that still lives in us, that we can even have those conversations today. So when we talk about these things were, 100 years ago, no, they were not 100 years ago. I have conversations with colleagues of mine from the South, and they still talk about things happening today, last year, 2 years ago, with some Black boy. Seems like Black boys are lynching themselves these days because they're all depressed. That's interesting. But we're not talking about this. But I'm glad that we are here. The act of Black boys and Black men saying, I love you. I love you, bruh. Dr. Crawford, I love you. Dr. Elmer, I love you. Thelma, I love you. Ms. Powers, I love you. That's not easy to say either, because we're not always taught to say that. Some households we are. I'll tell you, I wasn't in mine. And I can remember the first time I said, I love you to my father last year. And even to my mother as I was driving out of the driveway to head back from upstate New York to Washington, D.C. And as I left the driveway, my mother said, I love you, love you. I'm like, it was almost like rigor mortis. So, love you too. And I'm driving, I'm like, wait, did my mother just say I love you? Did I just say I love you too? Oh, we've evolved. My parents aren't the parents of the 14-year-old that I was anymore. They now have grandchildren that they say, I love you to all the time. And they've spent quite a bit of time here in these United States. So that form of communication is changing too. So I'm glad that was brought up in this conversation, discourse about how we come together, find each other and family, in community. Another thing I just want to bring up also is just the concept of these medical teams that we're building. Are you building the best medical team for you? Yes, it's one thing to communicate. Black man, communicate, Dr. Crawford said. Black man, communicate. Let your physician, let your medical team know what's troubling you, know what's hampering you, know what works, what's not working. But also ask yourself, is this the right team for me? And one way to look at it is kind of see yourself as a star player on the football team or the starter on the basketball team. Who's the manager? Who are your physical therapists? Who are your advisors? Who are the trainers? All those people are working for who? You. Numero uno. So if you hear and think and feel and sense that I can't quite say what's on my chest and I can't quite be myself and be honest, as Dr. Elmore asked us to be, ask yourself, is this the right team for you? Why can't you be honest? Do you think you're going to be shamed? You're going to be stigmatized, not heard? Are you speaking your language? How you need to get your point across? Are you being seen for who you are? Do you have the code switch all the time? Can't you just be yourself for once? Let's consider that too as we continue with our care. Yeah, with any
I
other-
wanted to
Yes, please.
I wanted to mention one other thing, and I love you too, Yao. Let me be clear. I think it's important to share that, as Dr. Elmore mentioned. I read a poem once that and maybe a number of you have read it too. And if you hadn't, I'd recommend that you find it. Because one thing that really stands out in thinking about Dr. Elmore's hope versus despair, it's by Lucille Clifton. And the title, as I recall, was Celebrate. And there was a part that said, come celebrate with me, that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. And when I think about that, I think about all the travails that we've gone through as Black men, as Black people in general. And there's not a day that we can count on getting a break. So the fact that we get through a day is something to celebrate. Goes back to what I was saying about, regardless of what we're going through, that if we think about how we've gotten to this place, we climbed some mountains. You know, that shovel was there. It sure was. But also we climb mountains. Those of us who believe with God's help, and others with luck or whatever goes, but you climb the mountain. And I think sometimes we have to bank on that understanding. In times like that, when things are really clouded and really challenged, we have to see the difference between, you know, when you're flying a plane, if you fly, and it's clear visual flight rules. You can see 20 miles ahead in every direction. But when things are cloudy or things are storming or it's dark, then you have to use visual flight rules. I mean, instrument flight rules versus visual flight rules. And in instrument flight rules, you're looking at the instruments and you're managing to fly on the basis of trusting those instruments. And I say that the instrument flight rules got us to where we are. And we have to continue to trust that to get to where we want to be and to visualize where we want to be. I'm not going to dunk a basketball again, but I might be able, if I did a few minutes ago, threw a balled up piece of paper in the trash can and I celebrated. Think of those small positive things to be able to celebrate that you're able to do because you got a lot of life to live and a lot in there to make a difference for others. And just one more thing, and I'm going to have to scoot. I'm sorry for taking the time. Dr. Elmore was a wonderful presentation. But when we work with traumatized individuals, this was with the the victims from the Boston Marathon bombings, and three people died, but a lot more people were injured. And they were talking about closure and how do they sort of move along to get back to being who they are. And many of you are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy. And when Maslow died, Abraham Maslow, when he died, the top one was self actualization. But it's been extended by his students since then to a level called transcendence. And what we figured out is that the way for these people to make the progress that were injured emotionally or physically or socially was to be able to help other people. So in self-actualization, you get to that place where you're all that you can be. But in transcendence, the seventh level, then now you're able to help other people get to that level. And that was similar to what Dr. Elmore had talked about when he got to the place where now he can help other people and understand the importance of doing that. So I wanted to put those two things on your mind. And I'm thankful to be here. Thelma, you know I love you. Always will. Respect and appreciate you and for all that you've done for so many. And I'll look forward to the next time I have an opportunity to join you all. God be willing and the creek don't rise.
Yes.
Thank you,
Okay.
Dr. Crawford.
Bye.
Brilliant. Thelma, should we talk to Dr. Roblyn Lewter?
Yes, please.
We'll do that then. All right. Our
We'll
next
play a recording.
Okay, our next presenter is Dr. Roblyn P. Lewter. She'll be joining us via recording we're going to show just shortly. Dr. Lewter is an international psychologist, educator, and faculty member at George Washington University here in Washington, D.C. Her focus has really been on culturally sensitive care, global mental health, and community-centered approaches to behavioral health. So help me in welcoming Dr. Roblyn Lewter via recording.
There is no sound, Sergio.
You about a topic that's been really heavy on my heart recently, and it really focuses on how we begin to heal together. So again, it's such an honor to be in this space, whether virtually or in person, with each and all of you tonight. And I want to jump right in because I know I don't have a lot of time, but I want to start right off by asking you a relatively simple question. And this question is not for the person next to you. It's not for your spouse. It's not for your children. It's not for your doctor. This question is for you. How are you really? And not, oh, I'm blessed. Not, oh, I'm hanging in there. And not, oh, I'm fine. But seriously, how are you? When no one is asking anything of you, how are you? You know, I thought about this meeting that Ms. Thelma was having tonight and the importance of this group. And I know that I'm in the presence of a room, of an energy space, whether virtual or in this meeting, that's filled with women, especially, who've spent their lifetimes answering another question. What does everyone else need? And somewhere along the way, many of us forgot to ask what we needed. What do we need? You see, I am an international psychologist, and for nearly about 3 decades, I have had the privilege of working with survivors of violence, families living through trauma. I have worked with communities rebuilding after conflict, and leaders who are navigating extraordinary challenges. My work has honestly taking me across countries and across cultures and across continents. And whether I was working in Ghana or Iraq or Morocco or Turkey or South Africa or right here in the United States, you see, what happened was I kept meeting the same woman. I kept meeting the same woman. Now, she looked different. She often spoke different languages. She voted different. She prayed differently. She lived different lives, but she carried the same invisible backpack. And inside of it, everyone else's pain. She carried her mother's pain. She carried her husband's worry. She carried her children's fears. She carried her coworkers' problems. She carried the church's expectations, her community's survival. She carried everyone except herself. And there is something that I'm going to share with you tonight that I haven't ever quite shared before. And I think this is why this topic has been so important to me, because over the past year, I have actually felt myself living exactly what I'm here talking about tonight. See, professionally, I'm a psychologist and I'm also a professor, so I teach doctoral students. And I have spent my life helping people to understand trauma and resilience and leadership and healing. And yet, you know, people often make this assumption. They often assume because I understand mental health that my own life must somehow be protected from it. And I'm here to tell you it isn't. Recently, someone that I love more than words could express began facing profound mental health challenges. And as her mother, every instinct inside of me wanted to fix it. I wanted to read one more article. I wanted to call one more treatment center. I wanted to stay awake one more night. I wanted to watch for one more phone call, answer one more text, pray one more prayer. And I kept telling myself something. I kept saying, if I just work a little bit harder, if I just love a little more, if I just never stop, then maybe I can carry this. And then one afternoon, very recently, I caught my reflection in the mirror and I looked exhausted. Not just physically, but so tired. Have you ever experienced that? So tired. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. And I remember thinking something that really stopped me in my tracks. I spent my life teaching other people psychological wellness. Yet somewhere along the way, I stopped practicing it myself. And that realization absolutely humbled me because love had slowly become overfunctioning. My compassion had quietly turned into self-neglect, and service had become survival. And I realized something that I hope every person listening to this, every person in this room tonight or virtually, you can love someone with every fiber of your being, and you're still not able to heal them by sacrificing yourself. In fact, sometimes the greatest gift that we can give the people that we love is not becoming another person who needs saving. Sometimes loving them means staying healthy enough to keep showing up tomorrow. And that changed me, and not overnight, because healing rarely happens overnight. But now when the guilt starts to whisper that resting is selfish in my ear, I remind myself that exhausted people cannot pour hope into anyone else. And so now I pause, I breathe, I pray. I get trusted people to hold me up when I need it. I laugh without guilt. I cry without shame. And every day, I remind myself that I matter too. Because if I disappear while trying to save everyone else, then everybody loses, including the people that I love the most. Now, I want to especially speak to the women of color in this room or who's listening to this tonight, because so many of us were raised believing that strength was our greatest virtue. People admire us for it, right? Oh, she's so strong. Oh, she gonna figure it out. She always survived. Have you heard any of those? I know I grew up hearing those. I've been hearing them my whole life. But let me ask you something. When was the last time that somebody has admired you for your softness? When is the last time that someone has admired you for your softness, for your peace, for your joy, for your rest, for your humanity. Sometimes strong is just another word for unsupported. And I truly do not believe that God created us simply to survive. He did not. I believe we were created to live, to laugh, to dream, to dance, to heal. And to the men in here tonight or listening to this, thank you. We need you, but not as rescuers and not as superheroes. We need you as partners. Partners who understand that emotional strength is not measured by silence. Partners who know that asking, how can I lighten your load today, can change a marriage. Partners who understand that healing is not just a woman's responsibility alone. Strong families are built by shared burdens, not by silent suffering. Now, tonight, thanks to Ms. Thelma, we are gathered here in this space through the lens of breast cancer awareness. And so I want to acknowledge something very important. A breast cancer diagnosis changes far more than the body. It changes how a woman sees herself. It changes how she experiences intimacy. It changes how she sees her future, how she experiences motherhood, how she experiences work, how she experiences hope. And research has consistently shown that many women living with breast cancer also have very high levels of, they experience anxiety and depression and grief and a fear of recurrence and emotional distress. You see, mental health is not separate from cancer care. It's part of the comprehensive care. And so for women from historically underserved communities, those challenges are often compounded by barriers to care, financial stress, caregiving resources, or unequal access to resources. And that is why we must care for the whole woman, not just the diagnosis. You see, psychology teaches us something remarkable. The human nervous system was never designed to heal in isolation. We regulate one another. Hope grows in connection. Healing grows in safe relationships. And that's biology. That's not weakness. So tonight, I want to leave you with 3 practices that can begin changing your life tomorrow morning. And if you know me, I'm very solution focused. So I'm like, what do we do with this? So I want to leave you with 3 practices that you can begin implementing that can start to change your life tomorrow morning. Then the first is, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions before you take care of anybody else. Promise me, 3 questions before you take care of anyone else. The first is, what am I feeling? What do I need? What am I pretending doesn't hurt? What am I feeling? What do I need? What am I pretending doesn't hurt? Awareness creates choice, and choice creates healing. Number 2, I know I'm running out of time. I feel like, even though I'm not there, I feel Ms. Thelma looking at me like. Number 2, second, stop confusing sacrifice with love. I'm going to say that again. Stop confusing sacrifice with love. Real love does not require self-erasure. Your children do not need a mother who disappears. Your spouse does not need a partner who is emotionally depleted. And guess what? Your community does not need another exhausted hero. They need you whole, healthy, present. Third, build what I call your healing circle, not your social circle, your healing circle. You need somebody who makes you laugh, someone who tells you the truth, someone who prays with you, someone who celebrates your victories, someone who you can call when life falls flat. Healing should never depend on one person. Now, I want to ask you a favor. Would you do something with me? Place your hand over your heart. Feel it. Feel that heartbeat. It's been with you through every disappointment, every diagnosis, every celebration, every heartbreak. It's been there. Every success, every loss. It has been there. It has never stopped beating for you. So maybe it's time. It's just time that you stop giving up on yourself. Before I leave you tonight, I want you to make me one promise, and not to me, but to yourself. Tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, before you check your email, before you begin carrying everyone else's world, I want you to stand in front of a mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and yes, it may be uncomfortable. Stay there with it. Stay there. Stay there. And I want you to say these words. I am worthy of the same compassion I give everyone else. Say it with me again right now. I am worthy of the same compassion I give everyone else. One more time. I am worthy of the same compassion I give everyone else. Those words are not simply affirmations. That is a declaration. It's a declaration that beginning tomorrow, you will stop abandoning you. You will stop abandoning yourself, because the woman in the mirror has carried enough. She's carried enough. You know, as I get ready to wrap up, I want to tell you, I just came back from Dallas a few days ago, and I often think about airplanes, you know, because every flight, the flight attendant gives us the same instructions that we've heard hundreds of times. If the cabin loses pressure, put your oxygen mask on first. If the cabin loses pressure, put your oxygen mask on first. And I remember as a little girl, I thought that was a bit weird. And I always wondered why. I always would say, should my mother help me first? Should mothers help herself first? But now I understand. An unconscious mother cannot save a conscious child. I'm going to say that again. An unconscious mother cannot save a conscious child. And an emotionally depleted woman cannot continue saving everyone forever. Self-care is not selfish. It's stewardship. It is wisdom. And sometimes, just sometimes, one of the greatest acts of love that we can give, that we can offer to people around us, is self-care. It's taking care of ourselves. Just imagine for a moment what would happen if every woman leaving here tonight, every woman in this room or listening to this virtually leaving here tonight, believe one sentence, and not, I have to be everything to everyone, but I deserve to be well. Imagine if everyone in this space right now believed one sentence, I deserve to be well. I deserve to be well. Imagine daughters watching their mothers choose healing instead of hiding, sons growing up seeing vulnerability instead of silence, and in marriages where where asking for help is normal. Imagine communities where therapy carried no stigma. Imagine healthcare that started to treat emotional healing as essential and not optional. Imagine women of every race, every age, every background, every political party, every story, looking at one another and saying, you don't have to carry this alone anymore. That is how cultures change. One healed woman, one healed family, one healed community at a time. I want to leave you with this. Your worth has never been measured by how much pain you can carry. Your value has never depended on how much of yourself that you give away. And you do not have to earn rest. You do not have to earn healing. You do not have to earn compassion. You already deserve all three. And so tonight, when you go home, I want you to look in the mirror. Look at that woman in the mirror. And instead of asking, what does everyone else need of me or from me, I want you to ask, what does the woman in the mirror looking back at me need? What does that woman looking back at me need? And then promise her tonight, I will not abandon you anymore. I won't abandon you anymore. Because the world has spent generations celebrating women who carry impossible burdens. So I wholeheartedly believe that the next generation will celebrate something even greater. Women who have the courage to heal. Because healing is not the opposite of strength. Healing is what strength looks like. Thank you all so much. God bless you. Celebrate that woman in the mirror. Celebrate yourself. You got this. And we're in this together. I'm Dr. Roblyn Lewter, and it's been an honor. Thank you.
Dr. Roblyn Lewter said a lot, a number of quotes that I just can go on and on about. But for the sake of time, I'm going to keep on moving to our His Story section. Dr. Lewter, again, I just want to thank you so much for your contribution to this meeting. And everyone, I do hope that you can take some time to come back later to the website and do check out the video again. Feel free to watch it over and over and over. Again, so many great nuggets of information shared this evening. Our next speaker.
Yeah,
Yes,
sorry, if I could just interject.
absolutely.
In recognition of men's health awareness, a request was, yes, this is mental health awareness month, but women are also having a lot of challenges. And because the two should be working in tandem, whether they're a relationship, whether they're siblings, parents, or whatever. And the request was to have someone to talk about the mental health challenges of women. So without diminishing the importance of this month for men, that is why Dr. Roblyn Lewter was included to talk about the challenges of mental health in women. Thank you.
Excellent. And if I can add to that, Thelma, I believe, and just as Dr. Elmore mentioned earlier too, everything that Dr. Lewter said, if you transpose it and change the word women to men, we need to be asked as men, we need to be asking ourselves those questions too. We need to be looking at ourselves in the mirror and talking about, are we being vulnerable to ourselves? Because we definitely are, quote unquote, soft. There's so many things that we're grappling with that we need to deal with too. So taking those moments before you get out of bed and tackle the world, taking that time to go internal and just ask ourselves, what do we need? What are we pretending about? It's also vitally important. So thank you for having her share that insight with us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Our next speaker is Mr. Junius Nottingham Jr. Julius Nottingham is the founder and CEO of J-Not JTT Corporation and is a colorectal cancer survivor living with Lynch syndrome. He's a passionate advocate for cancer awareness, early detection, and men's health, using his lived experience to educate and empower others. Through his work and storytelling, Mr. Nottingham helps bring visibility to hereditary cancer risks and encourages men to prioritize both their physical and mental health. I also want to add that he has a podcast that airs on Spotify. So please help me welcome Mr. Junius Nottingham Jr.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you, Ms. Jones, for calling me this morning and inviting me. This was not on my schedule for today, but God had other plans. I'm going to spend a few minutes, and hopefully what I share with you will either save your life or help you save somebody else's life. The young man that is over my shoulder is my son. His name is Jeremy Kyle Nottingham. Jeremy was a Secret Service agent. At the time of the picture, Jeremy was 26 years young. Approximately 8 years ago, my family and I were on vacation in Florida. And Jeremy, our son, told my wife that when he goes to have a bowel movement, he's bleeding. So we're thinking that a 6'3" federal agent doing 2-a-day workouts, traveling all over the world, we're thinking it's hemorrhoids. So we tell Jeremy when he goes back to Alabama at the time to go see his doctor. So Jeremy goes back the next day from our vacation, and my wife and I get a telephone call that has changed our lives forever. We're told that our son, who at the time was 27 years young, had stage 4 colon cancer. So my wife and I are looking at each other like, okay, we didn't see this coming. But then it gets worse. We get a call the next day from the same doctor saying that the cancer had spread to his liver. And not only had it spread to his liver, but he had stage 4 liver cancer. So within 48 hours, the life that we knew no longer existed. Then we're told, we were introduced to a word, 2 words that I want to share with you. And if you hear nothing else from me, please remember these 2 words: Lynch syndrome. And I'll put it in the chat along with my webpage. But the doctor tells my wife and I that we have to go get tested for something called Lynch syndrome, that Jeremy has something called Lynch syndrome, and that one of us has the gene. And let me pause for a second. God rest my mother. She passed at the age of 60 from ovarian cancer. God rest my grandmother. She passed at the age of 61 from ovarian cancer. God rest my aunts. They all passed at the age of 60 from ovarian cancer. God rest my brother, who died at the age of 50 from a derivative of Parkinson's disease, and he also had cancer. So when I look back, there was a history of cancer in our family.
Genetic.
We didn't know what we didn't know. So we have to go and get tested. I go get tested, and I'm told that I have a gene called Lynch syndrome that, unbeknownst to me, that I passed on to my son. God rest my mother. My dad's 93 years young, so he's full of life. So my mother, unbeknownst to her, had Lynch syndrome and didn't know it. So if there is a history of cancer in your family, if it's ovarian cancer, if it's colon cancer, if it's breast cancer, please don't ignore what's in front of you. Now, you may say, well, Junius, what should I do? Great question. Great question. Go see your doctor. Should you get a colonoscopy? Absolutely. Colon cancer is killing our young people. More people are dying from colon cancer under the age of 50 than any other cancer. Chad Boswick, Black Panther. I was up on Capitol Hill last year with his wife. It's believed that Chad Boswick had Lynch syndrome. The only way to know whether or not you have Lynch syndrome is you have to get genetically tested. Now, years ago, to get a genetic test done, it was $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. You can get one now done for $300. And if you want to pay out of pocket, you can go and pay $200 and go to color.com, and it will give you a genetic test. But that's the only way to find out whether or not you have Lynch syndrome. They call Lynch syndrome the silent killer. And they call it the silent killer because it doesn't exhibit any symptoms. Also, 1 in 279 people have it, and they don't know they have it. So we have a whole society of 1.2 million individuals who are walking around with something called Lynch syndrome that eventually is going to kill them if they don't do something about it. I had stage 1 colon cancer. So I'm feeling some kind of way with God because I'm like, God, it's not fair. Not fair. Jeremy had stage 4. I had stage 1. My prayer to God was, God, take my life. I've lived a great life. I was a federal agent for 30 years, was an executive in corporate America. Jeremy went to Johns Hopkins. He went to the Cleveland Clinic. Jeremy fought everything that he had within him to live. But it got to a point where he wasn't living. He was suffering. So my prayer went from asking God to heal Jeremy to ask God to heal Jeremy in heaven. So Jeremy passed about 4.5 years ago on November 22nd of 2021. It'll be 5 years. And it seems like it was yesterday. And it doesn't go away, but opportunities to be able to share my story, Jeremy's story, and share Lynch syndrome with this audience. If there's cancer in your family, talk about it, do something about it. You may have a doctor that doesn't want to do a genetic test. I have had number of arguments with doctors. You have to be your own advocate. And when you go to the doctor, and you probably know this already, take someone with you that's not close to the situation. My wife and I went to every appointment with Jeremy, as we should as parents, because he came back and he lived with us, and he died in the house that I'm in today. So there's a lot of triggers in this house. But taking someone with you is good because a couple reasons. They can take notes, they can ask questions, and they're not zoomed in on just listening to certain things that the doctor said. One of the things, and I'm not knocking anyone at Johns Hopkins, but one of the doctors at Johns Hopkins did, Jeremy asked the doctor how much time he had to live. And unfortunately, she quoted months. And once she did that, Jeremy, the Lord was going to take Jeremy home anyway. But once she did that, Jeremy's head was just all over the place. So again, Lynch syndrome is real. It's a silent killer. Colon cancer is killing young people. Please talk to your family about the history of cancer in your family. It's going to affect more and more people. Yes, I have a weekly podcast. I'll put that in the chat. What I do is invite individuals from different walks of life to come on the podcast to tell their story. We all have a story. My story may be different than Miss Jones. It may be different from Miss Powers, but we all have a story that somebody needs to hear. But the common denominator is God. And God is healing Jeremy in heaven. If God called me tonight and said, Jeremy can come back, I would say, God, let him stay in heaven, because he wasn't living. He was existing the last 3 months of his life. And as a parent, I don't care how old your kid is, you don't want to see him suffer. So I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share with you. Ms. Jones, if it's okay with you, I'm going to put my website in the chat. I'm going to put the information about the podcast in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to come talk. I don't want any money from anyone. I don't want anyone going through what my wife and I didn't know. And we didn't know what we didn't know. And we considered ourselves to be fairly educated people, but we didn't know anything about Lynch syndrome. So I appreciate the opportunity, Ms. Jones, to share with your audience. I'm asking each of you to share this with someone else, because it's going to affect someone. Remember, 1 in 3 people have it and they don't know they have it. So God bless you. Thank you for your attention. And I'll put the information in the chat. God bless you. Thank you, Ms. Jones, for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
Oh, you are quite welcome. I always love to welcome you to share about Lynch syndrome. And when you first shared it 4 years ago and never heard of it, and there's still now tons of people who've never heard of Lynch syndrome. And it was through Sherry Dinkerson who connected us. So I really appreciate that and the opportunity for you to raise great awareness about Lynch syndrome. And I'm especially happy that this is recorded, that we can share it at a later time. Thank you.
Absolutely, Mr. Nottingham. Again, just the deepest condolences from the Thelma Jones Breast Cancer Fund for your loss. Grief spans no sense of time. So please be gentle on yourself. Please ask your wife to be gentle on herself. Be gentle with each other. Thank you so much for the work that you are doing. Thank you for sharing here this evening. We will definitely take some more time to talk about not just Lynch syndrome, but genetic testing overall across diseases and ways in which we can learn, one, about our family histories and how we can begin the healing process in new ways. Thank you for sharing and being so vulnerable with us this evening.
And again, thank you for rising to the occasion on a short notice. I could
never say no to God. So you were God's messenger this morning. So feel free to call on me anytime. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Jeremy's tonight. Next, we highlight our partnerships. I hate to move so quickly, but we are bucking up on time, but we just have such amazing speakers this evening. And I wish we could take some more time to just calm a little bit because there's a lot that we've heard here and we're processing individually and collectively. Our next speaker, and such a pleasure to introduce Miss Haley Blassingame. Haley is a producer for NPR's 1A program and a proud native of Southwest DC, where the Thelma Doris Jones Breast Cancer Fund is headquartered. She's also a graduate of the Spelman College and has contributed writing to publications including the New York Times, the New Republican, and where her Modern Love essay gained national attention not long ago. She's recently is in the process of publishing a new book called They All Fall in Love at the End. So exciting. They all fall in love at the end. And it's a book that explores dating, identity, polyamory, and modern love in Washington, D.C. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the microphone over to you, Ms. Blassingame. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hi, thank you so much, Yao, and thank you, Ms. Thelma, for putting together such a emotionally affecting program tonight. As Yao mentioned, I do have a book that recently came out. This is it. But I'm not here to talk only about my book, but just to say that my family and I are staunch supporters of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund and donate generously each year. In addition to our donation, I'm proud to say that Miss Thelma has broadcast live from it used to be my home, but now it's just my mom's home for at least 3 to 4 consecutive months. My mom is also a regular volunteer of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund, Fresh Produce and Bagels program. So, in short, we believe in the organization's vision and mission. And I would be remiss not to add that I'm a proud Southwest Neighborhood Assembly scholarship recipient, and that I received thousands of dollars in scholarship funds. And just a little bit about Miss Thelma, who has served as a 3 times chair of the program and is not shy about bringing up breast cancer during meetings and outreach. Um, and she, along with others, have done an outstanding job in educating the youth in Southwest. And a little bit about the program. Since its inception in 1974, the SWANA Education and Scholarship Task Force has awarded over 600 scholarships to 300 college students in the amount of $300,000. And in 2025, ESTF proudly awarded 38 scholarships to 38 students, totaling over $60,000. And this year, they hope to exceed their 2025 scholarships awards and students in dollars. And once again, thank you so much for inviting me and for this lovely and emotionally impactful programming tonight.
Oh, now you got to tell us a little bit more about your book. And
Really? No, I don't want to.
No, you got to tell us a little bit about it.
I think Yao did a great job. I mean, I don't want to, I feel like Yao said, there's been a lot of heavy stuff, so I feel kind of a little uncomfortable following up. I'm very passionate about colorectal cancer too in young people. Like I can attest that it's very hard to convince doctors to treat you or to see you or to test you. So, I will show the cover of my book so you all can see it. It's available wherever you get books. It's a love story, but it's also very much about what was going on in DC in the second Trump administration in 2025. So it's a mix of both love, romance, and politics. But yeah, I'll let you all check it out for yourselves.
Okay. So are you having any upcoming book signings that we can help promote or end up being there?
Yeah, so I will be at Politics and Prose on Thursday, August 13th, the one at Union Market. So that will be at 6 p.m. And Jen White, who is the host of 1A, will be moderating the conversation.
Oh, wow. So what is it? I'm an NPR fan. What is it like working with Jan? Because I'm getting the feedback for some reason.
Mommy, you have to mute.
Oh, because I was going to tell her to put something in the chat.
Oh,
Okay, yeah. You could put in the chat, can't you?
I don't know how to do that.
Oh,
Okay.
and by the way, speaking of their support, my computer went down on me at the last minute. So I'm broadcasting live from Perry Hamlin, who is the mother of Haley Blassingame. So the support is just phenomenal. And it's great to have a neighbor like this, that you could just run around to their house on the last minute and they open the doors without any question.
The blessing.
Yes.
But yeah, working with Jen is amazing. She's so supportive and lovely and like one of my favorite people in the entire world. So I'm glad that she agreed to moderate my conversation for this book event.
Can I say one more thing? Haley, do you want to say a little bit more about colon cancer and the youth?
Because my mom has been I've troubled her with this because 1A did a show for, colon cancer awareness month and focused on young people recently. And of course that got me and the other young producers on the team concerned. And yeah, I've just been on my own journey of trying to just, see GI doctors and they're dismissive. They haven't the doctors have not caught up with the actual reality, and the insurance companies have absolutely not caught up with it. So there's a lot of resistance, a lot of, well, let's wait until you have this symptom. But when you have that symptom, it's usually late stage. So why wait when we know that there's a way to test and prevent that is reliable, which is colonoscopy. So, yeah.
In fact, I work at Howard University Hospital and infectious disease, and we are in the ID department, we are keen on making sure that we have conversation around pap smears with women. One of the things that I have pushed heavily on is that we should not forget our men when it comes to checking on colorectal, prostate cancer. We have to do those screenings on a regular basis. So we do have to have these conversations more. We don't talk about these things as men. We're not supposed to. And in the medical field, I'll be honest, I don't see it. So we have to advocate and self-advocate constantly. So thank you for doing that story.
And will you please let Jen know that we would like for her to moderate a breast cancer panel that the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund would like to host. And we'd like for you to be a part of it. You can do both the opening and the closing.
Okay, I will run this by her.
Okay. No, run it through her, not by through her.
Okay. I will raise it to her.
Thank you. That's better.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. But thank you, Haley.
Haley. Our last speaker this evening was, do we say save the best for last, Ms. Powers? Ms. Powers is a project coordinator for the National Consortium of Breast Cancer Centers, huge organization where she supports, where the organization supports advocacy, social media initiatives, grants, and membership engagement. She holds a bachelor's degree in communications with an emphasis on journalism from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and has been a breast cancer advocate for more than 3 decades. In addition to her advocacy work, Sylvia, Ms. Powers, is also a respected photographer whose work has been featured in Survivors Soiree at the National NCBC Conference. She is committed to using her innovative ideas to bridge the gap between advocacy and healthcare. Ms. Powers, welcome.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you welcoming me. But I'm here every month, so I just want to say that I am so grateful for the work that Thelma D. Jones does. She was my co-chair last year for our advocacy summit. She is my co-chair again by popular demand this year. in April, we were in Washington, D.C. for the Susan G. Komen Advocacy Summit. And I thought because she was in Washington, D.C., that she was already aware of it. And she let me know that she wasn't. And when I went and I thought, oh my goodness, I've got to make sure that Thelma attends this event. And I'm getting myself prepared on how I'm going to sell the people that are over the program to get her involved. And it was one of the easiest things I could do. All I had to do was say her name, and they were like, oh my God, you're talking about that. Thelma, yes, we know her. They couldn't understand how she didn't get them invited. It was just so funny because I was so getting myself prepared on this big sale job, and it was so smooth. Once I said her name, the rest was a piece of cake because of who she is and what she does. So I'm just grateful to have her as my co-chair, as a supporter. And I'm grateful for the things that are shared on these calls. From you starting out with the breathing technique, because I know we're all busy, everybody's doing something, that just helped to center me, and it just made everything else flow. So I appreciate that. But the testimonies that have gone forth on this call, gentleman that just gave the talk about colon cancer. When I saw the picture of his son behind him, I'm thinking, oh my God, this guy. I mean, I'm just envisioning his life. CIA agent, working with the vice president, and you see this huge smile on his face. And I just did not see what he was going to say over the next few minutes. I didn't see that coming. And to realize I've been dealing with cancer in this industry for 3 decades. I'd never heard of the Lynch disease. So that's something that we need to know. And I just appreciate the information that we share. And I definitely appreciate being able to work with Thelma and the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund because it's so important, and it's doing the work that we need to have done in our community. So I'm grateful to be here and to serve her in any capacity I can, because she definitely serves us, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
You're so welcome, Ms. Powers. We are all doing the work. Let me say that again. We are all doing the work. We've had phenomenal speakers who have, and when I say phenomenal, I mean, we're coming from a place of trauma. None of this conversation is about joy per se. It's about getting through, muscling through, overcoming, believing in miracles, watching miracles happen. But sometimes the miracles don't also happen. But at the end of the day, we all know it's from dust to dust. We're here one day, and one thing's for sure, we all have our expiration date. When is it? How does it come? We don't know. We don't know. But that's one of the certainties of life. But the mere fact that we can be here in community to learn from one another, to share with one another. Color.com, $200 for the Lynch syndrome testing. Lynch syndrome, say it to your doctors. And Thelma, I think we've talked about this before. I think in the future Breast Cancer Fund meeting, we should have a group session. We should also talk about genograms, where I can share with you ways in which we can learn to talk to our families about the different histories of communication, histories of employment, histories of diseases that run from one genetic profile to another. There's so many that I've recently found out in my family that it completely makes sense when you look back at the history. And as I'm looking at my nieces and nephews, oh, I'm seeing those genes being passed on. So we're now aware to look for what to look for and what not to look for per se. So these conversations are very important. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Can't thank you enough to our speakers, to our partners, to all of you for joining in these important conversations. Men's mental health is a critical part of community health. Women's mental health is a critical part of our community's mental health. And your presence here helps to move that conversation forward. So on behalf of Thelma Doris Jones Breast Cancer Fund, thank you for your time, for your encouragement, for your engagement, for your commitment, and for all of these conversations that I know will be taking place after this meeting, tomorrow, in the weeks and the months to come. Please share the knowledge, please share the website, please share this information, and please come back, come back, come back. We're here for you and we're here to support you as you continue to make your journeys through cancer and other chronic diseases. Thelma, I'm going to hand the mic to you. Would you like to say any last parting words?
Thank you. I think you just basically said it so eloquently, but I do want to thank our guest speakers again, Dr. Thom Elmore. Thank you, Thom, for this lasting friendship. We certainly look forward to having you back again. We also look forward to you and Kermit working together more. I see a lot of synergy there. I also want to thank Haley Blassingame and to remind everyone to tune in to the 1A at 10 a.m. daily on your NPR station. And to support our youth and our scholarship program, which she talked about. I also want to thank Sylvia for always being a presence of our monthly meeting. And Yao, you just mentioned about the importance of family history. Sylvia and I are having to have a conversation about that as soon as our schedules can slow down, because we're hoping that that will be a conversation at the next NCBC conference for 2027. So that is indeed very important. Julius, he may have had to drop off, but thank you again for rising to the occasion at the last minute and sharing the news about Lynch syndrome, because as Sylvia said, she's a person who's in the cancer circle on a daily basis. And so if she's unaware of it, you can imagine how many people who are totally removed from it have not heard about it. And so I'm so happy that the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund can continue to educate the masses, not only about Lynch syndrome, but about overall mental health and about the things that our youth are doing. And one last announcement that I would like to make: St. Augustine's Episcopal Church is holding its annual Thurgood Marshall Feast Day program on Sunday, June 21st. The service starts at 9:30 a.m. Our guest speaker will be Cecilia Marshall, which is the granddaughter of Justice Thurgood Marshall. She is the executive director of the Thurgood Marshall Foundation. So, as many of you know, Cissy Marshall, the widow of Justice Thurgood Marshall, was a longtime personal friend of mine. And so I take great pride in being on the executive committee every year of the Thurgood Marshall Feast Day program in honor of my dear friend Cecilia Marshall and the work that Justice Marshall has done. So please consider coming out to St. Augustine's Episcopal Church, which is at 555 Water Street Southwest. There is an announcement in the newsletter about our next meeting. I invite you to read about that. It's a meeting on patient navigation and community health workers. And I also want to call everyone's attention to our newsletter. If you're not on our distribution list, I would strongly encourage you to sign up. But in the meantime, please go to our website and look at the wonderful newsletter that our newsletter editor and ambassador, Lashana Thomas Walker, who is actually working from Italy right now. She normally lives in Atlanta, Georgia. So with that, and I want to thank our ambassadors who are on the call, and Sergio Jimenez for his work from the technical standpoint. So with that, I bid you all a wonderful good evening, and I look forward to seeing those of you who can Sunday at St. Augustine's Episcopal Church, and the rest online. And oops, I almost forgot. On Saturday, September the 19th, the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund is having its first ever breast cancer walk, starting on the Southwest waterfront, at the waterfront park on the wharf. So please mark that on your schedule. Thom, you can bring your family up and everybody else and come and walk with us with a purpose. So thank you again, everyone. And let's give Yao Odamtten a big round of applause for the great work he's done as our MC.
Such an honor, pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, good night, everyone. And thank you again.
Absolutely. We'll see you all at the next meeting.
Okay.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.